there is a biological basis for feeling lonely, right? Like there is a hormone called oxytocin that gets released in our brain when we feel connected to somebody. Like when you hug somebody or touch them, there's a small squirt of this hormone called oxytocin that gets released. Oxytocin is responsible for uterine contractions in pregnant mother who is delivering, or oxytocin is the reason why the milk starts coming out when the baby gets attached to the mother's breast. And the person who first synthesized oxytocin got a Nobel Prize for it. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our social connections session of Alzheimer's prevention program. It's a type of brain health program. As you may be already aware that we have various social media channels that you can learn more about us. Check us out at alz.prevention on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Uh, the goal of this session is to go through the material that hopefully you may have already learned. So how can you get the most out of this session? To get the most out of this session, what I expect you to do is to read my presentations well in advance. Think about it, see how you can implement those ideas in your life. Through your app for our program, you should be getting daily tasks or action items to do. So what I would like you to do is to doing those tasks, trying to implementing and making changes and writing it down. And when you come to see me during this session, we can discuss. So I don't like this session to be a lecture, right? The goal of this sessions to have as much interaction as possible. So there is a saying that what we monitor, that's what we manage, or we manage what we monitor or measure. If you don't measure something, you can't manage it effectively. So having the right tools in your life to measure your nutrition or your activity or your sleep or your social connections, all those things are very important. In this program, we do recommend you use some kind of wearable. Now, you don't want to get into nitty gritty so much that you lose the focus. But I do feel like that tracking your sleep, tracking your continuous glucose monitor, tracking your number of steps a day, or the number of minutes a day that you're spending doing brain training and stuff like that is very important. Some of the tools I recommend in this program is an online app, brainhq.com, as well as other resources that you have received in your app. One good way to notice improvement is to document it. So I hope you are filling out all the forms that you get a pop-up about in your app, and that will create a trend. So that will be a good way to introspect and see what you have changed and improved. Overall, I want you to be a B plus student, right? Sometimes we try to do everything at the same time for a month or 2 months, and then we give up. Many times, the great gets in the way of good. So, what I would like you to do is to do your best, right? Do the 80% of things right. And if you deviate a little bit, that's okay. Don't beat yourself down. Because the number of tasks you are getting every day can be very overwhelming. There will be days where you don't have a chance to check your task or implement that task in your life. You may not be able to implement every single task that I send it out. So take a chill pill and do the best you can. During this program, our goal is to focus on the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. Nutrition. See, I did not use the word diet. I said nutrition. In diet, mostly we focus on what not to eat, versus in nutrition, we focus on what to eat, right? If you just add all the right things, you may automatically get rid of the things that we shouldn't be doing. The same way we talk about exercise and sleep, social connections, stress management, neuroplasticity, avoiding risky behaviors, and stuff like that. To learn about each individual pillar, go to your on-demand section in your app and watch different videos and go to the presentations plus folder to see the presentation for all those sessions. You can track your activity through the app. You should be getting workouts. If you're not getting workout, you can go to the on-demand section and pick a studio plan where you can assign yourselves different levels of workout based on your physical capacity. Plus, you can watch those videos. So the goal is for you to watch one video a day and not binge watch multiple videos for that particular pillar of that month, but just watch one video and think about it, right? The goal is not to just learn the information. The goal is try to implement that information in your life. In the beginning of the program, you would have gotten that yellow book, or I should say brown book from me. Uh, so write down your thoughts into that book, your action items, because just the act of writing things down has a huge impact. The next thing I would like to talk to you about is different risk factors. So this is a busy slide, but this slide talks about all the different risk factors that can increase your risk of having dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and frankly, many other neurological and ill health situations. I'm not going to go into individual ones, but we have a whole separate session on risk factors management. So go through that session now. One more thing I would like you to do is to take that magnet and put it on your refrigerator. So in the beginning of the program, you may have received this magnet which says, I will beat Alzheimer's disease. And my weapon today will be blank. So each individual pillar of lifestyle medicine, we consider them as weapons, right? You need a warrior mentality to fight against development of Alzheimer's disease pathology in your brain. So it takes a lot of efforts, right? It just doesn't happen spontaneously. So every morning when you wake up, you wanna look at this magnet and see what you're gonna do different today, right? You have to do something, at least one thing that you think about that you're gonna do to help your brain not develop the Alzheimer's disease pathology. Like, as you may know, that Alzheimer's disease pathology starts 20 to 25 years before your symptoms starts. So don't wait till you start having symptoms. If you have already started having symptoms, don't lose hope. There are things you can do to slow the progression of the disease down. There is a reason this is a magnet. What we would like you to do, write down your why, like why you are doing this program, and put that why under this magnet so you can remind yourself every single day that what is your why of doing this program. Now, my why was because my grandparents had dementia and my parents started showing some signs of memory problems. So a few years ago, I got really concerned and I wanted to do everything possible in my life and teach my parents what they can do to slow the progression of this disease. But then I realized I need to spread this knowledge to other human beings and help them in their own journey. As the years went by, my rationale or why has gotten even more enlightened. As Dr. Dean Ornish says, the fear of death or disability is not sustainable, but joy of living is. So I'm doing this program so I can fully enjoy my life without different aches and pains and worry about getting sick. I spend good amount of time staying healthy, and some people think that that's a chore, but I personally really enjoy it because it lets me enjoy my rest of the life. Now, I'm going to give you some outline for what we're going to discuss today. So, we're going to talk about what is social isolation, what is loneliness, what is a important neurotransmitter in our brain called oxytocin, what's the history, right? What's the evolution? Like how our social connections actually impact our health. What can we actually do to make those connections better? To make it better, first we have to learn what are the barriers that exist that causes people to have social isolation. So let's get into the details. So as you may know, that we are having an explosion. So we are having a silver tsunami that by the year 2050, the expected global population that is going to be older than 65 years of age is going to be 16%. That is bigger number than any other time on this earth. Uh, as you may know, Medicare is spending a lot more money on people who are socially isolated. A person's risk of dying from loneliness is higher than heart attacks and cigarettes combined in next 3 years. So if you're 65 and older, it's very important to think about your loneliness and social isolation. If you're 65 and older, your risk of mortality goes up by 30% if you're lonely or socially isolated. But in healthcare, we spend very little time talking to patients about how we can improve their social connections. So this is my little attempt to help people that they can improve their social connections. Now, what is loneliness? So, broadly defined, loneliness is an uncomfortable feeling of perceived gap between the connections we want with others compared to the connections that we have with others. So, number of social connections may not matter as much as the quality and depth of social connections. And all of us need a different amount of social connections to feel connected. Like some people, they can just have good two, three friends and they are happy with it. Versus some people, they need bunch of people to feel connected. Now, I do want to create a specific distinction that social isolation that you have imported or that you have taken on by yourself, such as solitude, is not loneliness. Like there are some individuals, they really enjoy their alone time, and we all enjoy our alone time sometime. So solitude is good. It actually nourishes our soul. But if you want a connection and if you don't have a connection, that's what creates loneliness. Just putting yourself in a big crowd does not solve the problem of loneliness because you can be standing in the middle of the Times Square in New York and still feel lonely. So just having physical people around you does not mean that you are not lonely. Now, the wrong thing we do when somebody is lonely or we think that they are socially isolated and lonely is to tell them that get out more and see more people, right? That does not help. That can be actually destructive because most people who are lonely, they know that they are lonely. And they are trying their best not to be lonely. But if you tell them that go out and meet people, it converts that frustration of loneliness into confirmation of perceived lack of self-worth. They're already thinking that they're I'm not good enough, or I can't make new connections, or I have this or this or that limitation. And now we just confirmed their perceived lack of self-worth or perceived limitation into a bigger problem. So just telling people to uh, to go out and meet people does not work. Now, then what should we do? We need to think, learn, and introspect about the barriers of people who has loneliness and teach them or teach ourselves of how we can overcome it, right? If we don't know the barriers and if you don't have the skill set to overcome loneliness, just saying one sentence that get a partner or get good friends does not work. There is a biological basis for feeling lonely, right? Like there is a hormone called oxytocin that gets released in our brain when we feel connected to somebody. Like when you hug somebody or touch them, there's a small squirt of this hormone called oxytocin that gets released. Oxytocin is responsible for uterine contractions in pregnant mother who is delivering, or oxytocin is the reason why the milk starts coming out when the baby gets attached to the mother's breast. And the person who first synthesized oxytocin got a Nobel Prize for it. I can go on and on about oxytocin, but it's a very important neurotransmitter. Back in the days when we initially figured out what oxytocin was, people said, "Oh, we can use it. You just squirt some oxytocin in somebody's nose and make them fall in love with you, right? Like so simple." Well, I wish it worked that way. They did trials, but it didn't work that way. The analogy is you really need oil in your car, right? For it to function smoothly. But just pouring some oil on the top of the hood is not going to get the oil right in the place where it needs it. So that's the same problem, right? Just squirting some oxytocin in your nose is not going to make you fall in love with somebody or not going to make you have a stronger bond with somebody else. So the oxytocin has to get released at the right place, at the right time, in the right situation for you to develop a good bond with somebody else. And it has to happen naturally. I don't think pharmacologically we can make it happen. And that's a problem with many supplements as well, right? Just taking mega doses of one small chemical that may be beneficial in our body by mouth may not work because it has to be produced by our body in the right dose at the right place and things like that. But what does oxytocin do? Oxytocin increases our trust, reduces fear, it improves our emotional regulations, things like that. But it also has some negative consequences, right? If you have a significant amount of oxytocin release in a group of people, then you favor that group at the expense of kicking some people out of your life. So it creates in-group and out-of-group mentality and procedures and stuff like that, which is kind of a survival mechanism as well.